Hi there. Today we're going to be talking about perspective. It's kind of a loaded word because through that one word I'm trying to cover a lot of ground. Specifically with perspective, I'm referencing time, patience, learning, growth. What we do in a day through the bad moments. How we grow even when it feels like nothing is changing. And how important it is to reflect on the little things that we do actually accomplish instead of focusing on everything bad. If that sounds interesting, then stick around. I'm Taylor of The Sheepish Goat, and you're watching the channel. Okay, so I feel rusty, even though I feel like it's only been 2 weeks since I made my last video. But when you don't talk, you have more to say. It's kind of shocking how that works sometimes. But hi there. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. As I said, we were talking about perspective. And the reason I settled on this topic was kind of a unique experience, and I want to share that as the prelude for this topic because I think it's important. So when I knew I wanted to make a video again, I deliberately took a couple weeks off from making one because I find it important to not speak unless there's something to say. I don't want to fill time in your ears with garbage that might spew forth from my mouth. I only want to speak if it is resonant and feels meaningful. So I didn't have anything to say, and it felt important for me to rest. Hence the break. But I was thinking about wanting to make a video, and I was trying to formulate an idea of what to talk about. I have a list of items that I could go to. Nothing felt resonant, and I wanted to kind of formulate a new thought with the space and time that I've had. So I was like, how do I do this? If you saw my video on relapse, rest, and relaxation, I think that's what I called it. I probably should have looked before starting this video. Oh well. I talked about being struck with an idea because I sat in a certain spot. That spot is right behind you, actually. I have a couch over there where I meditate every day, almost anyway, most of the time. And when I meditate, I only sit on this spot. And I don't really sit there for any other reason. So I thought, okay, I'll go sit over there. That worked well for me last time. Maybe it'll help spark a new idea. Because I think so often we fall into the same patterns and the same routines, right? Patterns and routines can be very healthy for us. They can be deliberate tools to maintain a sense of stability and balance in our life. But they can also feel like a trap, or they can subconsciously be a trap. For example, usually when I'm thinking of thoughts, I'll just be sitting on my main couch. I sound bougie to say I have 2 couches, but one was free, so don't think too much into it. But I was sitting on my main couch where like my TV is. And when I was sitting there, or when I generally sit there, I'll just like think of thoughts that usually won't have my TV on. But I'm kind of always in the same spot. It's like the comfortable place to be, right? It's your living room. So I usually sit there and try to think. And in some capacity, I think when we're in the same routine, the same process, it's going to spawn the same ideas, right? We're not necessarily opening ourselves up to new thoughts because we're in the exact same mode. We're around the exact same set of stimuli. So I know it's still my home, but I thought the idea of going to this other location might be a good idea. So I was eating grapes because they were delicious. Red grapes every day for the win over green. I'm sorry if you like green more. So red grapes. I sit on my meditation couch. Again, that sounds funny to say out loud. I sit on my meditation couch, and as I go sit on my couch, I'm sitting there trying to think of ideas. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to talk about. And I'm picking grapes off the stem. And as I'm picking grapes off the stem, I take the last one. And when I take the last one, I look down at the stem. And the stem is branched into three different forks. One was very short. One was a little longer, and then the middle one, I'm not trying to flip you off, it just happened to work out that way. The middle one is much longer. And as I look at that, I'm struck with the idea of a branching path. Perhaps it's very obvious, and that's because it is. But it really struck me, and I chose in that moment to use as a reflection point for my life. See, I'm a person who struggles with depression. I go through mood swings all the time. A couple weeks ago, I was the lowest I've been in quite a long time. One of the reasons I spawned another break, right, from making a video. So I was looking at these three paths, and I was thinking how they related to me. I saw one as maybe an option of my past life in my 20s, where maybe I remained in Chicago. Maybe my relationship never ended. Maybe I tried to continue to pursue acting. I saw one where it was snubbed really short. Or maybe things didn't work out good for me. Maybe I never tried to go to therapy and seek help for my problems. And then I saw the third one, and I was struck by where I am today and how very different life is, even though it feels so incredibly similar because I'm in it every single day. And in that moment, it got me thinking about, well, if I'm here and it's different, then that means that I've done things. And that means that the decisions and the choices that I've made have actually progressed my life and made a difference in who I am. And it's funny because when I think about choices, or when I have historically thought about choices and my fears, my worries, and the anxiety that I have innately as a person, it was always about what I hadn't finished. You know, before I started making these videos, before I started doing things, when I was at my last, 2 jobs ago at this point, but basically 3 years ago, ironically, 3 again. But 3 years ago is when I really decided to live my life. And I started to work on myself. I decided to quit my job and make videos and do all these things. But when I look at my life from that perspective, all I ever thought about is what I never finished. Everything I started and failed at. That's what it always was. And I didn't know how to move forward. And I was so trapped by indecision. And it felt impossible to move and do anything. But since I saw that grape stem, since I saw that third path, I realized that even if I haven't finished things, starting things, doing things, not being at an end is still important because it still got me here where I am today. So, even though those things might feel difficult and impossible in the moment, doing something, regardless if it's done, still mattered. So, it started me thinking about everything that I've done. Regardless of if I finish it, regardless if it's where I want it to be, or how I foresee it or foresaw it, it's exactly what it was supposed to be, and maybe I will finish it. But the importance and the resonance is the fact that I started and I tried something, right? It's not about the perfectionism, it's about the idea of trying to do anything, because we get stuck in that stagnation. But let me share with you, because I wanted to really think about what I had done. So I wrote down, this isn't everything. This is, in 3 years, the things that I've done that I'm proud of and that were very hard for me. Let's go through them, shall we? In 3 years, I've had 2 new jobs. At my last, I always refer to it as my last job, but at that job 3 years ago, I felt stifled. I felt stuck. I didn't know how to leave because I didn't feel like I had skills to be applicable to anything else. I was overwhelmed. I felt like it was consuming, and I didn't feel like I had the capacity to have a life. But I've had 2 jobs since then. I also felt it would be impossible for me to ever read a book. I consume a lot. I learn a lot. I'm very visual, though. So reading can be very hard for me because I tend to get burnt out. I try to read, I read too much, and then I burn out. So I read a book, philosophy book. I've got more that I'm in the process of reading too. In that 3 years, I have been in therapy now for 7 months. That's pretty cool. In being in therapy, I have worked on establishing and asserting boundaries to better stabilize myself and have balance, not being overgiving. To that point, I put myself first, and I've worked on breaking my people-pleasing and codependent tendencies. I've realized that the things that I can do can be just for me, and I don't have to do things for other people. I don't have to be a savior or a martyr. I don't have to be this idealized perfection version of who I think I'm supposed to be. I just have to be myself. Through that, I used a dating app. Doesn't matter if I ever met anyone in person. We don't talk about it. But I used a dating app because loading an app, making a profile, messaging people felt terrifying for me. But I did that. I tried making friends as an adult. I had an app for that. I met some people. I talked to people. Also felt crazy, intimidating, and terrifying. But I've done that. Through that process, to those same points, I never went places really by myself outside of like a grocery store. So now I've eaten at restaurants by myself, which felt terrifying. But I do that now somewhat regularly, and it feels pretty cool. I've also walked, wrote, meditated consistently for 5 months. Having stability, consistency, that routine, when it comes from a point where you felt like you couldn't do anything, is so incredibly empowering and rewarding. So to think that I could do something for that long is awesome. To further that point, when I first started going to therapy, I started running. And when I started running, I got up to running 22 minutes straight. 22 minutes straight of running. I didn't think I could do running consistently more than a day. And I did it for a couple months. I decided I hated it. I don't do it anymore, but 22 minutes, it's pretty good. After that, I started hiking. To this point, I have hiked at 15 different trails at 13 different parks. I go hiking every single weekend, and it is one of my absolute favorite things. I took a voice acting class. That felt terrifying and intimidating because me doing voices for other people was always nerve-wracking because I would compare myself to myself and never think I could be good enough. But I took a class on it, furthered that point, made a video on it, furthered that point again, made an animated show about it that was 30 minutes long where I voiced 4 different characters, counting myself. 3 of those were animated characters, and I did all the voices for them. That was a huge point of pride for me. That project took 3 months, but it was such a rewarding experience. And probably most significant is I made a YouTube channel. I had a false sense of starting and stopping and never knowing what to do and being stuck in this idea of I could never get going, or it was never right, or I was making videos for the wrong reasons. But to this point, I have made 60 videos. This will be my 60th video. In those videos, I have sang, danced, cried, and been almost naked on camera. Imagine where I will be in a year. Oh God. If you would have told me 3 years ago that that would be true, yeah, that's pretty wild. I think most importantly though, outside of those list of items, things that I've accomplished, I have learned patience and stability through uncertainty. That's kind of a large topic, but that's kind of how I want to end this video, is life feels overwhelming 90% of the time. So often the moments we are in feel like there's no progression, or they feel stagnant, or they feel like I'm going through the motions. But in those moments, life still exists. The bad moments aren't the end. The bad moments are moments that work hand in hand, in tandem with life itself. And finding the ability to live a life through those moments means that you're living a life. We don't turn off our brain and wait for our vacation. We still exist in every moment that we don't want to be here because it's important for us to choose to live. It's important for us to choose to be active in our life and do things that matter to us, to show up and say, hey, this fucking sucks, but I'm doing it anyway because guess what? It's my life and I will be active in it. I won't turn off. I won't pretend that it's not happening, because it's important to be present. Moreover, those moments do feel long, and timing and the importance of waiting is extremely hard. But I want to give you an example specifically. At my last job, my actual last job, because I'm in a new one now, I didn't want to be at it. It was a very physical job. It became very demanding. When I started it up, I actually felt burnt out because it was so physically taxing. So I stopped making videos. And I stopped making videos for like 8 or 9 months at that point. I felt like my life regressed and I felt depressed again, which is why I started going to therapy. But that's exactly why it was hard. It was hard because I needed something to convince me that I had to go to therapy. Because as soon as I started going to therapy, my entire life and perspective on self changed. I learned how to show up for myself. I learned that I was enough. I learned that I could exist in the bad moments. It fundamentally changed who I am and what I wanted in my life. And it showed me that while I was at that job, that I could still exist, that I could still have a life through something that I absolutely hated. And even if I was tired, even if my job was physically demanding, I could get up to running 22 minutes. I could find time to do that. I could find time to show up for myself and still try to prove that I mattered. I started making videos again when I was there. That was so important to me that before I left that job, I wanted to prove to myself that I could exist within the confines of that terrible thing, right? So before I left, I started making videos again. I found time and energy for myself. I was able to build a routine because the chances of having a period of time in which bad things aren't happening is nearly impossible. But that doesn't mean you can't work around those circumstances. Finding ways to balance the things you care about and love with the things that feel stressful and overwhelming and time-consuming means that you get to exist in the presence of life, that you still show up for yourself, that you still have joy and time. And that's perspective. That period of time, that reflection afterwards, that moment of, that's why it sucked. It sucked because I had to get to my breaking point again. I had to get to my breaking point and show myself why I needed to go to therapy. I had to get to my breaking point and show myself that I could still exist through everything terrible that I felt inside. That I could still be a person, have a life, and feel excited for the next day. Even if it was more of the same shit. So I hope that made sense. I hope this was resonant. I hope it was helpful for you. I hope in your life you're able to look at the things that you've finished and look at the things that you haven't and realize the things that you haven't, they might matter more than things that you have. Because everything you do, every choice, everything you try gets you to the next step. Gets you to a point where you can be happy and reflect and have perspective. Yeah. So until next time, everybody. Love you. Bye. All right, we'll count this one as a test. It's been a couple weeks. I'm ready to make a video again. Feel like with my beard growing out longer, I feel like Robin Williams in Jumanji. What year is it? I hope this was a good video. If you liked it, thanks. Stick around. Like, subscribe, all the fun stuff. Let me know in the comments. Either way. Thanks for watching. See you later.